It's live time.
We're live. Whee! Finally. Awesome. Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another live episode of Transmissions with AJ, with the one and only legendary brother from another galactic mother, Mr. Mark Attwood. Thanks for coming back for a 2.0, my friend.
Oh, no, that's good. It's good. Great to be back. How you doing, AJ?
Yeah, it's, well, everything's chaotic, fun. The movie is unpacking itself quite nicely.
Yep.
We keep talking about the scene is set, the stage is full of actors, and I think people are like really starting to see that now. I think I was literally talking to Corin today about how people who probably 2 years ago like woke up to the COVID stuff after having their own experiences through that period, and since then it's been eye-opening sort of feast for everybody, but now we're at a stage where there's just like people like when we say waking up, it's just like they're doing it in their way, right? It's just like it's whatever was going to come to them at the right time, and I think that's something we all need to be mindful of. I don't think everybody needs to know the deep dark depths of absolutely everything that we've kind of uncovered and shared and stuff like that over the last 5-6 years. I think we're at a stage now, like especially with the youngsters as well, that I don't think they need to know all that. Like for me now, it's all about, right, this stuff. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to build? How are we going to create?
Yeah, it's not. It's I was just thinking, it's not been always that easy to hold on to what is true, even though we're not necessarily right about all the details. It's like, especially the side of it of them, a lot of actors being involved. It's like people just even with Biden, with his 35-year-old legs falling up and down the stairs and stuff, they still didn't see it. It's just been a real test of perseverance as much as anything else. But in the last few days, I've noticed there's this kind of magic in the air, and I've been really enjoying that, and I've been spending a lot of time outside, and I was working with wood today for the first time in years, and I was like, this is nice. And I think that's really chop wood, carry water, keep smiling, keep having a good day. The whole thing has really been designed to teach everybody not only the truth of what's been going on, and I agree with you that even though I've been quite hardcore talking about, and I've had long running arguments with people about whether you should talk about satanic ritual abuse and stuff like that, but for me it's been like critical to talk about it, because although it is an inside job, for me it's been like, I want everybody else to know what's going on, because if you don't know who the enemy is, how can you what can you can't do anything about it. And it's been, anecdotally at least, with a lot of people that I know around here in Ireland, there's definitely the wake up is in full. I mean, I just sent a text 10 minutes ago from my neighbor from a Facebook page. I've not been on Facebook for 4 years, but there's a Facebook page called Died Suddenly, and he sent me this screenshot of the pantomime virus, as I call it, and I'm like, it's hilarious. He's sending stuff to me that's been going on for about a year now, and it's just getting more and more, and he comes around every day saying, well, have you seen this, have you seen that? And I'm like, yeah, I did a video about that 6 years ago.
It's brilliant, and I've had a few messages recently, like from people I serve with as well, just kind of subtly apologizing for treating me the way they did when I was only trying to help people.
Who was that?
Just people I serve with, just a couple of guys from my old unit, and it was just just a nice message, just to say, look, keep doing what you're doing, man. And like they've actually gone on their own kind of like masculine shamanic journey, and they're getting into like breath work and stuff like that, and they just said they've been like keeping a close eye on what I've been doing, and actually learned a lot in the background. So it's really nice to like hear, but I'm very, very humble with that kind of stuff, and I always say to people, like, there's no need for any apologies from anybody. Like, I really, really believe that, and it's all about like them doing what's best for them and their family, and understanding all the control systems now that have waged war on us, and on our consciousness, on our children. and our DNA. And then once they fully understand that, it's easier to navigate around it. And then it's good to see these people then do something about it, within their own families and communities and stuff. And that's what it's always been about for me, I guess. And I know it's very similar for yourself. It's not it's not an I told you so, war, because we're all soldiers at the end of the day in this war, every single one of us. And we need as many fit and fighting troops as possible to crush the enemy, right? And that means bringing all the troops online. And I think that's what lots of us, myself, yourself, loads of other like great influencers out there have done quite well, and stayed in our lane and just like put our head above the parapet, but like literally, and just kept going and going and going, despite being labeled traffickers and pedos and stuff like that. Ourselves.
Is that all you've been labeled? My favorite one was I'm an Illuminati wizard. That was my favorite one.
That's pretty cool. Well, you should get on a t-shirt, mate, or maybe your next book, The Chronicles of an Illuminati Wizard.
Yeah, that was quite a compliment. I'm like, oh.
But what's been really great for me is that, like, there's probably like a million things we could talk about, but like right now at this moment, you've got like this whole palaver with this Santa virus, as I like to call it, because they're both made up, right? And all the comms, and the comms around the ship, and the numbers and everything else like that. But at the same time, there's like loads more going on over there. There's loads more going over here. The government are literally on its ass. The rules have literally been stripped of everything. That's clearly obvious. It's all part of this pantomime, right? And that we're all the main actors of. And I think we're at a stage now where like most people can see that. So I know that everybody watching and listening to this are not NPCs, right? NPCs aren't looking at our content anymore. It's very much people that resonate with stuff that we say. And that they can learn from. And I think they're all seeing exactly like what's going on now, and that the fact that we're in this amazing movie as Truman in our own story, and each day is just like more and more and more and more like little boxes being checked, as we literally go. I'm not saying all go inwards, but we're literally all finding connecting to the God spark within, which has always been there. And at the end of that day, God wins. And like, fucking hell, who wrote a book called God Wins? You know what I mean?
Oh, look.
That Illuminati wizard.
I just think it's like a 70s furniture retailer. Welcome to Godwin's, where you'll find a sensational settee for only $2.99. Well, God, I mean, it's all a spiritual journey, and it's consciousness is people think it's just like them, but it's everything around us. I mean, the last couple of days in Ireland have been incredible blue skies with incredible fluffy clouds, and I drove around for 4 hours yesterday. I was a passenger in a van picking up some stuff, and I was just obsessed with the clouds that I was looking at, because they had some people watching this, but they're usually a nutter, but I'm used to that. So I think a lot of them were ships that were cloaked, because the ships can cloak with clouds. It's very simple camouflage, and you can generally tell. I can tell which ones are the ships. And I was talking to my friend who was driving, and I said that I was telling him about a guy that I interviewed a few years ago. He wrote a book called UFO in the Fish Tank. And he's a Scottish farmer who was attacked by the Freemasons in Scotland, and he was taken up on the ships as a kid, and had experiences on the ships. And I interviewed him when he was living in a camper van by Loch Ness, and he's friends with somebody that I know in Scotland as well. And I never got to interview him again. And I was just telling this story to this guy, saying, because what George said to me about George Smith, his name was, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago, he said he'd been told that these large ships would appear above the cities, and then all the flushed out bad guys would all be sucked up and arrested like that. And even I keep an open mind to everything, and I'm like, well, that's interesting, George, but it was completely believable. to me. He wasn't a crazy guy. And I was just looking at the clouds yesterday thinking, oh, is it time? And what was interesting is that over the first few years after Corona, I think I was a lot more fired by righteous indignation. I am still fired by that, because for me, it's all been about getting into a position where we live in a world where not one child is harmed. You know, it's always been for me about the children, and my children, for me personally, but every child and every young, you know, any time I hear about anything happening to any baby or child, it just, that's never going to go away. And until we live in a world where that doesn't happen and can't happen, I won't stop. And I don't care what anybody calls me. I don't care what anybody says about it. I don't care. And I think, you know, we all got different roles during this whole thing. I mean, I was aware of you 5 years ago, but it took us a while to talk because it's all divine timing. I mean, I got an email of somebody today in Australia who I was supposed to speak to in 23, and for some reason it didn't happen. But now we've reconnected at exactly the right time, and she's an SRA survivor, and we're going to have a good chat next week, hopefully. Brilliant. And all of these things are kind of like, it's all perfect timing. And when I was going through my suicidal phase, I remember I'd learned this phrase, everything's exactly as it's meant to be. And I kept repeating it to myself, even though it was like Groundhog Day. I was just in the shower every morning. It just seemed like I was in the shower. And then a day happened and then I was in the shower again. And it's that complete hopelessness. And you think there's nothing left, you know, there's nothing to live for. And I just kept going, everything's exactly as it's meant to be. And it's very difficult to, even during, you know, an attempted genocide on the human race, I think sense will be made of it at some point. I just intuitively know that. But it, you know, that doesn't mean it's been easy going through a period where people are literally dropping dead. And, you know, there's me trying to make people laugh with dad jokes and stuff in the middle of it all. And, but I think I'm pretty proud of what I've done. And, but not in an ego way. I can't wait for it to be over because I want to make videos about cars and airplanes and cookery. You know, I want to keep doing cosmic stuff. I want to get to the point where everybody's now realized we're multidimensional beings. We're telepathic. We've got all that stuff. Great. Now let's enjoy our lives.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you, mate. But like, I just want my own robotic optimum to come and work here on the farm and get stuck in and stuff. You know, a bit of cooking, bit of sorting the house out, a bit of gardening. Do you know what I mean? Well, you know, I love all that stuff, but it's just yeah, I'm very much the same. It's just that I think, you know, looking in the comments and that, there's a lot of people that are mentioning about being exhausted and stuff, and I think. Yeah. Just we're all exhausted. Like it's not just because the amount of content and the amount of information that's going into the mind. It's the upgrades at a cellular level, you know, and the release of all the old stuff and the purging that everyone's doing. You know, the tears and the rage and you know, whatever process it is that people are going through. You know, it is exhausting on the body and the mind. You know, and pretty much everyone now is just like, fucking hell, if I hear the word endgame one more time, like I'm gonna end my game right here and right now. You know, and I get it. You know, I really do get it. But again, I think that it forces us to actually go inwards more to realize that, like, well, we decide. You know, there's no savior. You know, like President Trump. Yeah, we're the savior. Like, you know, President Trump is, you know, he's an archetype. He's literally not. He's not a hero. He's not a villain. He's literally like a character in this movie that is there as part of this great catalyst of other people to help guide you home to who you truly are, and that the home is where the heart is, and it's all from here. And I think now that projection is literally showing itself, is manifesting itself because of the rapid rate of ascension that's happening right now. Everything we're seeing is a projection of the collective.
Yeah, I mean, did you send me a message the other day talking about people feeling dizzy? I can't remember if that was you or somebody else.
No, it wasn't me, no.
Yeah, the last couple of days, I mean, I'm just reading the comments as well, but 2 days ago, or yesterday even, this morning, I was really dizzy, and I was like, whoa, and I was like, you know, just push on. This is what I mean about the ships. I think they were doing something. And, you know, whenever I've learnt to know that when you get that weird pain here or that thing there, it's actually, you're not dying. It's just, you're going through this change. I mean, I wrote short story that won a competition when I was 11 years old about us changing from carbon to crystalline structure when I was 11. that was only, I was recounting that the other day. I was like, how did I know that? Why was I writing that? I think I might have been science fiction obsessed, and but that's not an accident either. And
yeah,
I think it all comes down to trust. Do you believe in humanity? Do you believe that there is a creator? I mean, just look around you. How can there not be? And I was an atheist for 30 years. I'm not, and I'm not talking about religion. I don't like religion. Religion was put there to ring fence us as a limited hangout. And it's all part of the spiritual. It's all part of this. If you look at this place as a school, it's fun. Even today I was having that conversation. I was like, yeah, I know, the shower's not working because the pressure's broken and I need to get this guy to do that. It's fun. It's a game. It's just a game. And if you look at it like that, you have a lot more fun. You just have more fun. And if you're optimistic about the outcome, not only do you have a better time getting to the destination, but you're also changing the outcome because of your positive thoughts. And you've got all this pressure, all this negativity, spiritual attacks, demonic attacks, hexes, witchcraft, the mainstream media, which is basically all of those things all in one place, the wars, the economy, all this crap is designed, I think, by God to allow you, as a fractal of God, to learn how to get tough. I said to my kids, I've said them to them for years, but I said to my youngest boys, diamonds come out of shit.
Yep. And I'd very much agree with you. And I actually meditated today and had like a big kind of it's more confirmation, literally in the yew trees behind me there in the garden, about being the prime creator. Like I've been, and you said about writing that thing when you were 11. I've been obsessed with Transformers since I was a kid, and I literally like made a funny AI picture of myself as Age Amos Prime today, and I posted it in one of our retreat groups, like just as a joke. And then lo and behold, a couple of hours later, I'm out there meditating, and it was literally bomb, like heart, like you are prime creator because you create it all. You create the good, the bad, and the ugly for you to have all of these experiences, to feel and experience the duality, the polarity, the good, the bad, that that the ugliness, the densities, like all of it, because we come here obviously to have this experience, but also to feel it all in the body. And so we can't experience pure bliss forever. You know what I mean? You have to understand what bliss is. You have to understand what dog shit is, right? Or evil and everything else like that that's thrown at us from left, right, and center. Exactly like you said. And I really believe that. And then when you kind of embody that, it just gives you that even bigger power up to understand that, like, you are the creator of it all. Robo Biden didn't create all of that shite in America. Like, us as a collective going through this great awakening and our own versions of our story simultaneously is what created that. Otherwise, we wouldn't experience it.
Didn't we do well?
Yeah. So I think everybody watching and listening, give yourselves an absolute massive higher self high five.
I can smell your armpits when you do that.
Pure essence, mate. Pure essence coming from the land. Yeah, and it's I've been talking to a lot of people in our community over the last few days, and we just come back from Portugal, obviously, off one of our retreats, and the depth of conversation was just next level, and it's continued on, like in the WhatsApp groups, and everyone's like doing meetups and stuff like that, because it's like you could just I was watching and observing, and you just see it's like everyone's home, and it's like everyone knows each other already. And that's speeding up like rapidly, So, I'm sure it's the same for yourself. Like Soul Fam are literally like coming into your field left, right, and center. And if you're experiencing this, ladies and gents, like, please put it into the chat. It's really great to see what you guys are going through as well, rather than just myself and Mark sharing. And we'll share a lot of your comments as well, because the feedback I'm getting from obviously the wider collective is that this is speeding up hugely. Like, the right people are coming in at the right times, the right little gifts or the right little messages, or the relationship they've always dreamt of just poof, just appears. That's sped up like hugely as well.
But it's just hilarious things every day for me. Like yesterday, I went to pick up a kitchen island, right? And handmade by an 81-year-old man that I know who does beautiful work, woodwork, very rustic. And I said, look, I need a kitchen island. Can you do one for me? And he built this thing. And so I finally went to pick it up yesterday. And then when I got there, he's got this amazing shed in the middle of nowhere. And the guy's 81, and it's a shed full of stuff, antiques, stuff that he's built, massive long tables. We used him for the Live 5D Health Center to deck out the shop and some of the woodwork in there. It's just beautiful stuff. And he's, you know, he won't take proper money for it either. You insist on it. He's like, no, you have it for that. He's just a lovely fella. Anyway, I stood there and I noticed there's this ice cream bike, right? And I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Brilliant. Now, I wasn't looking for an ice cream bike, but I've got 15-year-old twin boys, and I've been talking to them because they're starting to think about their future and stuff. And obviously, I've told them not to bother with school or university, same as the elder three. And I said, we're going to start understanding how to be in service, how to make money, how, you know, all this stuff that we need to know at the moment. So I saw the ice cream bike, and I said, right, Bob, I'm taking that. So I brought it home. And on the way back, this is what I normally do. I'm like researching, do I need a license? Where can I get ice cream? Can I sell my own stuff? You know, I'm going through all the research in the car on the way back whilst looking at the clouds. Cut a long story short, I'm like, I go to the health center this morning to pop in, and there's a big van blocking my way, and a guy comes out and he goes, said, am I blocking your way? I'm sorry, it won't be long. And I said, no, that's fine. And I saw he had a load of food and, you know, food stuff in the back. And I said, do you deliver food for restaurants and stuff? He said, yes. I said, do you do ice cream? He said, no, we don't. And then he told me the whole problem with the ice cream trade. He just gave me loads of information. And then I said, well, who's the best? And then he gave me the name of the, and I was just like, there you go. It's just the way it works. When you're in flow, these things just pop up.
Oh, 100%.
And you have to recognize them when they do. They're not, you know, that's why you've got to look people in the eye when you walk into a cafe or a bar or something, and, you know, don't stare at them like a nutter, but just make sure you're checking everybody out, because you're surrounded by messages and people that can be helpful to you, and you can be helpful to them. And it's just a thing. And there are less and less, I've noticed, like you said about the soul families, there's less of the arseholes that there were, because, oh my God, you know, stalkers, weird shit, weird people, bad decisions, you know, but it's just lessons. Everybody's a lesson. I'm a lesson to a lot of people, and a lot of people are lessons to me. And if you see it that way, then you don't get so depressed when a relationship ends. You don't get so pissed off with somebody when they do something that looks like it's against you, because it's just a lesson.
Absolutely. And again, they're lessons that we all need, you know. And it's interesting you say it about, like, you know, people just popping up and stuff like that, like little messages. It was only this morning, me and Corin went for coffee, and a place called 7 Districts, which is like based on kind of Norse Viking history. And I know it's on a very powerful energy line. And I walked in and no one else was in there. And this girl was clearly having, you know, on her first day or second day or something like that, still learning the ropes. And she was chatting away to me, and I explained what I wanted to order. And she just had it on her arm. And I actually hope she's watching this, because she said I left her with a business card, and she literally just had really small writing just on her wrist here, just said the word universe. And then just further up her arm, just on the inside, just said breathe. That was it. And I was just like, that's interesting. So I was like, just really random small letters as well. So I was like, it's clearly a conversation starter. Like, so I just said to her, I was like, I like your tattoos. She went, oh, thanks. I said, universe and breathe. I went, that's interesting. I said, we run breathwork courses, and we do like obviously a lot of retreats and work plant medicines and stuff like that. She was like, oh my God, I'm like massively into meditation and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then our friends turned up, and then I just said to the girl before I left, I said, I'll be seeing you soon. And she was like, yes, you will. And I was just like, just like that. You just know that she, you know, she's got something for you, and you for her, you know. And those interactions are really, really speeding up at the moment, I find. But you've got to be observant. You know, you've got to have eyes wide open. You know, like the real eyes need to be like 20/20 more than they've ever been for you to see it.
That's what COVID was all about.
Yeah,
it was. You know, do you remember? I mean, I remember where I was when I first heard about it. I'd just given a keynote speech in Mauritius at a big Colonial Hotel to 600 lawyers. I don't even know what I was doing there. And I was being VIP'd by Air Mauritius back to Ireland. And as I got into the executive lounge, some woman came out and pointed this gun at my head. And I went, what are you doing? She said, I'm taking your temperature. And I went, what for? She said, there's a virus. And I went, and I stood in the lounge and I went, oh, could this be it? Could this be the New World Order? Could this finally be here? And I had this, and it was energetically I really felt it. And I remember being at Paris airport and I was looking around and I started noticing there were people with masks on. And I was like, what the fuck? Is this it? Because I've been waiting for it for years. And it was fine. And the energy of it was mad. And when I got home, I remember sitting in the garden and I just felt this. It was like a wave of unbelievable energy. And I was like, okay, here it is. Better go and drink some wine. And I drank wine for a couple of weeks thinking, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And it was like being activated. It was really funny when I look back on it. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a clue. Didn't have a clue why I was being told to go online and talk. And I literally had an argument going, what am I going to talk about? And I got told, oh, you're not going to have any problem talking. It's like, here I am 6 years later, still doing it.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? And I was talking to friends the other day, and people on our retreat, because like most people have only kind of really followed me for the last couple of years. Like there's like a percentage that's been since 2020, since I started doing like live podcasts. But I actually had a podcast before, and it was like I was already prepping myself for it, you know.
I was as well. 2016. Yeah. I recorded my first episode with John C. Parkin. Is that his name? I think that's his name. But he's the guy who wrote Fuck It Therapy.
Okay.
Great guy. Really got on well with him. Was over the moon that he wanted to do it. But recorded this podcast. And I was living in Marrakesh at the time. And I remember listening to it. And I was like, no, I'm not sure. I'm not happy about this. Didn't know really what I was doing. But I was being prepped. Because I'd done a podcast before that on marketing with a guy who ended up dropping dead. And it never felt right to me, you know. And the whole marketing thing was weird for me because I was always like, what am I doing this for? I don't even believe in marketing. And it was so funny. Yeah. But everything was a preparation for this time. You know, I think we've talked about this.
Yeah.
You know, I had the whole life review in 2020, 21. When I was like, well, that's why you worked at the Daily Telegraph. That's why you met Prince Philip. That's why you were next to Max Hastings. That's why you met these Illuminati lawyers. That's why your mate died in 9/11. That's why this. And then I was like, whoa, it all makes kind of sense now.
Yeah. It's beautiful, mate. And yeah, you know, you were saying about obviously you doing that talk. I was in Sierra Leone in January 2020. With an amazing, like, very small charity run by a single lady who I just connected with like randomly on the internet beforehand. And I was just like so passionate about helping her. I was like, I need to go to Sierra Leone. And I was like, so I sorted it all out. And the sponsors even pulled out last minute, leaving me with like about $3,000 worth of costs to suddenly come up with. So I just whacked it all on a credit card, didn't give a shit. And I was like, I'm going. And I went there for like a week. And it was like such a profound experience. And it was while I was there in the hotel with the lady who runs a charity, started seeing stuff. This is January 2020. Started seeing stuff on the TV, you know, with Chinese people body popping on the floor and that in suits in the middle of the street, like frothing at the mouth, you know, pure acting. And bearing in mind, I'm in Sierra Leone, right? And I'm just speaking to the most amazing, beautiful people. Like a lot of them are amputees and rape victims from the Blood Diamond War. And so I'm listening to all these amazing people talk to me about all the false flags that occur in their country, the fact that the CDC took Ebola there, they create landslides to like sell off to land to developers, you know, whether it kills people or not, they don't care. Like one thing after the other, right? They're telling me Tony Blair owns the largest diamond mine in the whole of Sierra Leone because that was his.
No, surely not.
Yeah, that was his that was his promissory note for sending troops there to help out, you know, obviously during the Blood Diamond War. So they're telling me all this stuff. Then I'm sitting down having some scran, watching this on the TV, and straight away I'm like, bullshit. And then, you know, the lady that runs a charity with me was like, oh yeah, this doesn't look good. And what was mad was at the end of that trip, it was so profound on me. I said, I'm gonna take a break from alcohol and see where it takes me. Not say I'm going to quit. I'm going to take a break from alcohol and see what it takes me. Bearing in mind, I had a whole lifetime of boozing, mate, since I was a teenager. You know, military, like you know what I mean. So it was all divine and meant to happen. And then, so by March the 23rd, well, obviously we went into lockdowns and everything in England. I was already like 2.5 months into being sober. So like my head was clear. I had lots of clarity. So like, when that then started, it was like bomb, but on with the podcast. But at that point, I was working at Port and Down. So it was like you're saying, you had to be here, you had to be here, to be here. It was the same for myself. I had to see there was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. I had to see all the bullshit around Afghan and the fact that we were protecting the poppy fields. You know, see all these things at Port and Down. See that they make Novichok at Port and Down, which is next to Salisbury, where the incident happened. And the BBC made a documentary in like a day. You know what I mean? Just all these things. So it's very much like yourself. And I'm sure it's like the exact same for people watching and listening. When they really think about it, you are perfectly placed at every single time as part of your journey to see all of these things for basically the catalyst to most people getting their 2020 vision, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I got, yes, it is a mullet. I went for a haircut today, and the guy who cut my hair is 17 years old, and he's a legend around here with the kids. And he's cool. Like, he's super popular with the kids. And he stood up to teachers. He stood up to the guards. He told me today that he refused the jab when he was 12 years old.
Brilliant.
Or 13, when his whole family had it. I mean, amazing kid. And I was just so hard. I said, you realize you're a massive influence around here, because all the kids go there for their buzz cuts and their fades and all this shit terms that I didn't think. There were only 2 haircuts when I was a kid, short back and sides and a crew cut. And now I said, is this a mullet? And he went, no, it's not a mullet. I went, this fucking is a mullet. I'll get home and see what my girlfriend thinks. If she doesn't like it, I'll come back tomorrow. But I'm seeing the kids, like my kids, are wide awake, thank God. And bit of a battle with one of them over the years, but totally awake, doing loads. I'm just so happy about the future, because they are, you know, I was nowhere near where they are when I was their age. Even though I knew the world was weird and I always felt out of place, I had no idea that it was run by, God, I had so many close calls with pedophiles when I was a kid. It was ridiculous when I look back on it. But my kids and these kids, they're all aware of it. You know, there was even a guy got arrested around here at a food truck, and the kids, he got arrested for pedophilia basically, and the kids went and spray painted his food truck pedo, and then somebody came and covered it up. And it's like, why are you covering it up? It's like, the kids are doing it. The kids are saying, this guy's a pedo, this shouldn't happen. And it's like that kind of rebellious spirit I'm seeing a lot of, and it's rising, and its consciousness is 100% rising. And I've had an amazing experience in the last week here to do with the water. So Ireland is the heart of the earth, right? This is a very, we're living in the ruins of Atlantis and Lemuria here, and same as the British Isles, maybe not the whole way over, but the connections are there. Land of the giants, all the things about leprechauns and dragons and fairies, it's all true. They're not myths. It's all true. It's all still here, actually. And there's a, you know, when we open the healing center, the biggest part of it, the core of it, is about the water. You know, and I've been going on and on and on about, since I learned about structured living water, the power of copper, clean water. Water has a consciousness. Most people watching this will know, you know, I first came across Emoto about 20 years ago. Then the work of Vader Austin has been amazing in the last few years. The consciousness of water is critical to the consciousness of all of us, which is why they poisoned our tap water, which is why all this shit in the bottles in the petrol station and the supermarkets is dead, stale, poisonous, sometimes with arsenic in it, water, right? So the water's key to this. And I came across this amazing woman down in Kinsale in Ireland called Charlotte, who's got a beautiful story about uncovering a mound in the garden of the house that was left to her by her grandfather. And she eventually acquired this house through his death, I believe. And first thing she did was dig up this mound, and she discovered an ancient well.
Wow.
And this ancient well is full of this, what she calls it, unity water. It's higher consciousness water that forms a network throughout the whole country, because this country was a mystery school, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was before the patrician who got renamed St. Patrick 100,000 years later, 1,200 years later, the patrician from Rome that came here to kick out the Druids and the knowledge and rape and pillage and everything else that he actually did. He put a curse on this town, funnily enough, which we lifted. But before he came here, this was literally a mystery school where people came from all over the world. That's why it was called the land of saints and scholars. So anyway, Charlotte found this well, and then she discovered a map that was in the house that had been untouched for a century. That map contained 100 other wells within Kinsale that were all hidden. Now, Kinsale's got 2 star forts in it, and there's also chatter about a deep underground UFO base in the ocean near there. And she started, over 20 years, she's been uncovering these wells. And then I've been filming her doing a ceremony last week, which was the 13th out of 13 ceremonies to reactivate the water network in Ireland. And I'm going to go and film her book launch in a few weeks. And as we were doing all of this, you could feel it. This is coinciding, funnily enough, with something that I posted last night from a farmer who lives 30 miles away called James Conway, who ran a podcast called the James Conway Experience. It's now called what's it called? The Silent Majority. And James has been incredibly brave and outspoken, and he's been out there on the fuel protests a few weeks ago. Anyway, he posted a water engine demonstration that happened on his farm yesterday, right? And everybody's going, "Oh, he's going to get killed." And I spoke to him last night. He said, "I think we're past that. We know that satanic pedophiles around the world, their time is over. If they want to kill me, then my grandchildren have a good story. But this is open source. We can't, and it's water everywhere."
Mm-hmm.
Like recently as well, bees. The whole bee thing. When Trump showed the king and the queen the beehive on their trip to Washington last week, on the same day that bee landed on his hand in front of them, I was filming in the hills here, and a bee landed next to me while I was reading a poem. You got to notice these synchronicities, because the bee goes back to Mary Magdalene and all of that power. Why Manchester hijacked the bee after that false flag in whenever that was, 2014 or whatever, or 2016. I'm rambling, but it's consciousness is 100% up everywhere, and people watching this should understand that there's going to be subtle changes in the fabric of your local town, in your society, in the way that news is reported. Everything's shifting because we're shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And with everybody a lot of people watching this, you and me, big team effort across the planet, have been doing this work, whether you know it or not. I mean, a lot of light workers don't actually know they're light workers, which is hilarious.
It's brilliant.
I was one. In fact, I don't even call myself one.
No, don't need to.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, we're all light workers. Like, I always say, like, we're all soldiers, like soldiers in New Earth. And going back to what you're saying about the youngsters, is that our youngsters are the future leaders, and it's so imperative that we harness that, and that's why so many of them are kind of awake, if you know what I mean. And I guarantee you, 100%, it's why schools really don't want them to have phones in school, because there's lots of youngsters out there making awesome truth TikTok videos about histories and stuff like that, and basically debunking half the shite you learn at school. They don't want them having a history lesson about World War II and Hitler's bad and blah, blah, blah. Then go into lunch and then flicking TikTok on, and they're all sharing, well, have you seen this video that we're watching? That's why they don't want to have the kids to have phones in schools. They don't, and that's why they're, the imprisonment of them in most modern schools nowadays has just got worse and worse and worse, and the teachers have just got more and more programmed. And the kids, most kids aren't enjoying school, And that just shows you like how bright these kids actually are, because it's like their consciousness awareness is already so high. They struggle in those low dense matrix environments, right? That's governed by the schools, but like the schools aren't schools anymore, as you know, are they? They're all academies, they're all businesses. They've all got these they've all got the kids, trying to drink, getting them drinking tap water, and they've all got these polyester PE kits and stuff like that. It's all subtle little things that attacks on them from every angle. And I've been saying for ages, mate, like that, we know that the planet started to ascend in around 2012, right?
We all die then.
Yeah. Well, I actually think it was like kind of 2019, 2020, like it's almost like a death rebirth for a lot of people. However, like you can have multiple, I guess. But if you actually really look back and studied the amount of poisons that are now readily available, right, to our youngsters, they've like quadrupled since 2012. So it's like everything was known, it was prophesized that we were going to be going through these times at this time, and that the children was going to have a massive part to play in it. That's why they want to dumb them down as soon as possible with vapes, especially. Skin fade haircuts, like all the kebab shops, all the sweets, all the, all of it, like the energy drinks, and the influx of influencers pushing them all is far outweighs what we saw in 2012. And obviously the vaccines and all the vaccine schedules and flu myths and like you name it, right, is just attacks from every angle, and it's not on us. It's on us to program our kids, but inevitably the main target is the children, from every angle. And I think a lot of people are obviously wising up to that, but it's it just makes you look at our younger generation now with more awe. That's how I see it. I look across, like, I just want to have conversations with youngsters all day now. I don't know about you, but like I just want to speak to these gifted kids, like, because they're phenomenal, man. My nephew messaged me the other day, and like it was his 18th birthday, and I was in Portugal, and I video called him from the beach, and he was actually telling me that he's designed his own coding program, right? And no one gives a shit in the family, right? And I was like, mate, this is fucking awesome. And he was showing me on the screen. I was like, so what are you doing with it? And he goes, well, I've made cheat codes for like these games that like pure geeks love, right, online. And he's selling the cheat codes in blocks, right, for 250 quid each. And he's just turned 18. And he said he made $4,000 in a day and a half. And I'm like, see, bro, I said, that is breaking the matrix. I said, and that's why people get triggered by you, because they're on the tools and they're fucking paying taxes on everything. They're buying into the systems, right? And that's why people get triggered by you. But I said, you're one of so many gifted youngsters out there that have got all this stuff like for now. And it's so good to see, man.
Oh no, it's super good to see. I was just reading the comments here, and sorry, I was just going to answer this one. Don A. Edward Stewart said, "What's your water gadget?" It's called a kettle. Yeah, I'm making a cup of tea because it's late at night. There was the monster. I think who said that? Was it Stuart? Matthew Short. Hate seeing the ones drinking Monster. So the hairdresser that I was talking to today, he had a can of Monster. I said, "What are you doing drinking that?" I said, "You know what?" And before I finished speaking, he said, "Yeah, I know, 666." So why are you drinking it? He said, "Well, I don't know." And then I thought, well, I'm going to, instead of lecturing him, I said, "Look, the kids come in here. They see you drinking this. They see you as the most successful kid around town. You're tall, you're cool, you're opinionated, you're talented, you're successful. You're not even 18." I said, "These kids see you drinking this. They go and drink it." He said, "I know." I said, "Look, we've got healing water, the best water in Ireland, and just across the road. Go and fill up a thing on that. Start drinking that with a bit of salt in it and a bit of lemon and honey, and sip that and get yourself a carbonator, if like a soda stream if you want." And he's going to do it. And I said, "You'll change the health of the whole town if you do this. And if you do that, I'll help you with your business." So it's like this barter thing going on, and it's beautiful, because I've been teaching any kid that will listen, don't get a job, get a business, understand how online works, and been trying to get all my kids to start YouTube channels, but they won't yet because they're not quite ready for it, and that's fair enough, because they're living life. But my eldest son was just here for a week, which was great, because I've not seen him in a year, because he's been off sailing, and he's 21. Wow. And he's working on one of the best yachts in the world and of its type, and has done for the last year, and just followed his dream. And it's like I'm so happy for them that they understand this, but it's frustrating for me to hear them say that a lot of their friends just don't have any dreams, don't have any ambitions, don't think they can go anywhere, never had a passport, never been anywhere, and they all think and it's like such limiting beliefs that are programmed into them by not just the schools, not just the TV, not just society, but the energetics of a place. Different places have different energetics, and I often talk about this book, Island Land of the Pharaohs. I've ever talked to you about that before, AJ?
No.
It's an amazing book. It was written by a guy called Andrew Power in 2005. It is one of the best books on the true history of this country, which actually relates to the whole world, that I've ever read. And I've been trying to track down his family in the last few months to see if I can republish it, because he passed on. And the thing that really struck me, and a lot of my subscribers already know this story, but I'll tell it to you. He said in that there were 16 layers of black magic put on this country compared to 2 in other countries.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, well, why this country in particular? And that's why I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but that's why I'm so fascinated by, and why I'm here for a start. I mean, it was not my plan to ever live here. Just sort of circumstances brought me here. And and I think a lot of people watching this know this already, that we've all been strategically positioned on the earth. I won't say around it, because that triggers everybody. And I don't get into that flat earth conversation because I can't be bothered with it. But we've all been put in these strategic positions. And I said when I was on tour in America, just channeled it or whatever, and I said, look, we're all points of light, and we're all holding this grid of consciousness together, trying to pull everybody else out of the quagmire. And it's like Return of the King, the third Lord of the Rings film, where Frodo and Samwise Gamgee are in the swamp, and they're being attacked by these things under the water, and Gollum's after them, and it's really difficult. They're exhausted. They've run out of food. They're on the way to Mount Doom. And that's where we've been at. And I think we're coming out the other side of that 100%, and it feels extremely positive to be around at the moment.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I was wanting to allude, actually, on that note, to quite a number of the comments talking about RVs and the Saint Germain Trust. And I just want to put a little something out there for the listeners that I put out last night after the second Champions League semi-final, which has now resulted in Arsenal about to play Paris Saint-Germain, in the Champions League final on May the 30th. Now, Arsenal have a couple of players called Jesus, spelt Jesus, and Gabriel. And they'll be playing against Paris Saint-Germain. I was getting like lots of vibes around the metaphors around that.
Who's the manager? Frank Yeshua.
Yeah. Well, what was really interesting is that Bayern Munich played Real Madrid in the previous leg, and their manager, literally, I'm not even shitting you, right? We actually went there on the same day. It's called Arbeloa.
No.
Seriously, where obviously where all the ley lines meet in the UK. Like, we went there as a family, and literally the same day, Real Madrid played Bayern Munich and got beat. And I think it was number 17 scored in the 88th minute. I was like, you can't make this shit up, right? And on the way back from Arbeloa, we went through Matlock, which is a place where one of my best friends lived. He committed suicide in 2017. His military, and it was such a weird experience. Like, Matlock was literally, it's like they tried to make it look like Scunthorpe but inland. It was like really seasidey. Yeah. And we went into this vintage toy shop, and our Harry wanted he's mad on Back to the Future. We saw this limited edition DeLorean that this guy had got in with a little Doc Brown figure, and it was 33 quid. And then it wasn't until that night that obviously the game was on, and I was just like, you can't fucking write this script, man. This is mental.
It is mental.
It's beautiful, man. It is beautiful. So I just wanted to throw that out there for the people talking about RVs and the Saint Germain Trust and that pretty much being on the precipice. I do feel that myself. What that would look like, obviously, I think it's very much still very much an inside job. People talk about the EBS and stuff like that. I do think the EBS is an internal thing. So, you know, like to me, why would anybody expect the world to just sit there watching a rolling movie talking about truths which have been produced by someone else when it's actually about you and your truths and what resonate with you?
I would like that to happen, though. I must admit.
Yeah and no. But I do feel personally like it's all an inside job, you know. And I think that the EBS is just comms for us because it's an emergency broadcast system within, so it activates what truths resonate with you in your reality, if that makes sense. Because it's all created by us. Otherwise, it's like looking outside of ourselves again to sit down and watch another movie within a movie. Does that make sense? And it's
totally. I mean, I did a mushroom ceremony 2 years ago. It's the last one I did. And who's the goddess of destruction? I can't remember her name. Shiva. Who's the other one? Oh,
you got Isis, didn't you?
Not Isis. Was it Shiva? Anyway, this goddess was speaking to me, and she said, "You wrote all of this," and I was like, "Yeah, I know I did." It's like a journey, and I was like, came out of it going, "Oh yeah, that's cool. I quite like this," and that's what I've been saying to my daughter, my eldest daughter in particular. She's very sharp and very, very psychic and all of that, and
Amazing.
she's had a tough old time of coming to terms. I was pointed to the film Man of Steel, and I say, well, look at Man of Steel when General Zod comes to Earth and he takes his mask off and he can't cope with all the inputs. I said, that's what you're like, and you just got to learn how to. She's been with Carol in Costa Rica the last couple of months as well.
Amazing. Oh, sure. Yeah. What, Heaven and Earth Sanctuary?
Yeah, but also doing the Galactic Face Reading course.
Oh yeah. Psychosomatics, I think it's called.
Yeah, so she's had a tough time of it like that, but I was telling her when she was about 5 years old, I said, look, this is a hologram. And she goes, don't tell me that, Dad. It destroys everything. And I said, no, actually, if you understand that it is, then it's actually more amazing. And that's the point I've been trying to make for quite a long time. And we are literally creating this. And all the hardships we've been through collectively and individually have been a chosen journey that our eternal souls chose to go through. I absolutely know that. And nobody will ever convince me otherwise.
No, totally in total agreement, mate. And everything's designed by us perfectly to a T, pre-planned. And I'm showing this every time I sit with medicine and in Portugal. It's just in a more profound way each time. Just pure confirmation of it all, and our abilities, and what's coded in our DNA. Who put it there?
You did.
The question. I did. Yeah, and that's why we've got to protect our DNA for ascension, right?
Last Q post.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying earlier. This is why so many people are seeing 1111 at the minute, because 1111 is the remembrance codex that's within you, within your DNA. We all have it. And that's why, obviously, the 11th of the 11th is called Remembrance Day, because it's inverted. They mock us because, it's the last guns fell silent. So they say, which signified the end of a war, which was basically 4 years of mass rituals in trenches, like killing men from all over the world, as well as destroying all our ancient buildings, undercover. And it's the 1111 is it's just the code that you put there to spark your remembrance. And funny enough, 1111, or on the 11th day of the 11th month, what's the bugle song that's played? The last post.
You're giving me flashbacks, because as a cadet, I used to play the last post on a bugle, 14 years old, in a church full of people, and it was the most. You can't get a single note wrong when you do that.
Yeah, I know.
You do. You're so embarrassed.
Yeah.
You're like.
Yeah.
It goes for ages. which is amusing for me because I used to lead the cadets through Northampton town on a march when I was a young teenager on Remembrance Sunday. I mean, and what a con that is, you know, because you're so proud, and they do it. It's the same playbook all the time. You're there thinking all these people died for me to have this freedom. So I'm going to fight along. I want to fight. I want to stand up and serve and protect these people as well. And it was a con. The whole thing was a fucking con.
Yep. And I guess because it's a soul trap, isn't it? Like, and obviously we have amnesia, not knowing that. That's why all these cenotaphs and places of and these statues of all these soldiers' names on are literally to soul trap the soldiers in. And you know, Dr. Joe Whitaker, obviously, you know well, you know, showed me a lot of this in Lincoln when we were going around doing a lot of stuff with coded water and stuff like that. And I was like, it just makes perfect sense. And then you all stand around the cenotaph like with the Queen's head on your left breast, all morning for one day of the year that you're allowed. And yeah, it's just a massive ritual. But you know, I don't get upset about that. I look back on those experiences and I'm like, well, actually, like I still remember to this day, every day. In fact, the last 2 days, I've had like a lot of remembrance coming through, but not that I didn't remember before, but it was actually about friends of mine who've died. So I had a lot of remembrance around my friend Jonah, who was killed in Afghan, and I'm off to a place called Newport on Sunday to run a breathwork course, facilitators course, but at the Newport in Shropshire. And my friend Jonah was killed and was from Newport in Wales. And myself and a few other guys did the whole whole funeral service as bearer party, and I was the front right hand man on the coffin, and I just felt compelled. I was just sat there with Corin. I just felt compelled to research his death, and on Google, and it came up straight away with a picture of us carrying the coffin. So I was like, I showed her, and I was like, I was 27 then, I think. It was 2010, and I showed her, and I was like, look at, like, I just look so sad, mate, and like depressed, and obviously like very much in. It's a very, very difficult situation, especially when you bring in your friend off the plane at Rise Norton, and then you go through the whole Wootton Bassett thing as well, which they call Royal. And then the process afterwards, you know, a few weeks later, actually at the funeral, and then lowering him down into the ground, like in front of his wife and children, was like horrendous. And it will always stay with me forever. But I was having a lot of remembrance about it as like deep gratitude, you know, like for actually have been able to have that experience, because it really taught me so much about what it means to, I guess, be a soldier, but like about what death is like, and actually like how they operate around it in the military. You know, that taught me such a massive lesson before I then went to Afghanistan myself as like a commander. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was the whole thing around that. Like, I don't get too caught up on going, oh, you motherfuckers, you've like screwed us all over, and I don't get irate about it. I'm like, it's all part of our remembrance to who we truly are, you know. And it's like that's the polarity, that's the disclosure, that's the ugliness of it all, the ugliness of war, and why we never ever need to be in it, you know. War, what is it good for, right?
I used to do a stand-up comedy act called Sergeant Roger Foxwell. It just come back to me, and I get up and I do war poetry, and I go, war, huh? What is it good for? Absolutely everything. Say it again. Oh my God, those were the days. Yeah, you brought flashbacks there, because I came to the squadron one day early, and the chief flying instructor came out. I said, "Morning, sir," and he said, "There's been a fatality." And then he walked up, and I went, "What, a fatality? What the fuck's a fatality?" And I was like, "Hang on, that means somebody's dead." And then there's going to be an influx of kids here right now, so I'm just going to move. And I said, and then he told me to go down to the beach and basically pick up the pieces of an airplane that my friend had just crashed and died in. And obviously I was like, well, you know, it's kind of a numbness, right? And my dad had just died the year before. Another friend of mine committed suicide not long after that, and then I saw the coldness, and they actually covered up this guy's death and said it was something that it wasn't, and I was like, hang on, these guys are lying, and I realized as a teenager thinking about going into the forces, I'd always thought of killing people as just part of the job. You got to do what you got to do. It's part of a wartime situation. But then because I'd seen death so close up in a very short period of time, you know, the 3 deaths there within 18 months, I think, I was like, I can't do this to anybody else.
Yeah, I get you.
I cannot ever do this to anybody. I don't care who they are. I am not going to take anybody else's life ever. And I just can't, you know, and that's been challenging recently because, you know, when you think about all the heinous crimes that have been committed against humanity and people say, string them up, do that. And I'm like, there's got to be another way of punishing them without murdering them, you know, on a hangman's noose in front of the whole world. I don't, you know, that's been difficult for me because on one hand, I want all pedophiles off this planet forever, all Satanists off this planet forever. But do we have to have mass executions? This is the thing. I do struggle with it.
It's quite archaic, isn't it? Really, and that's why, like, you know, as much as people strongly believe in restore and stuff like that, like, because they are very much the extreme opposite to, and I say the word extreme, I don't mean bad extreme, but like they speak a lot of truths, you know, and talk about a lot of things that none of the parties are willing to talk about. But, you know, there is a lot of stuff still missing. But they talk about bringing back like death penalties and all this kind of stuff. And I just find like it doesn't matter what party it is or who it is, I still think it's quite archaic. I think as humanity's rising into higher states of consciousness, which is based on, you know, living from a state of love-based unity, right? Where do you draw the line?
It's one of the things we're going to have to come. We're going to find out, I think, because a lot of it's out of our hands. Or is it? Because we're creating everything. So who knows?
Yeah, I think so. So in terms for you, mate, where do you see things going in the next? I'm not going to say year. I'm going to say like, because that's just way off. And people are still a lot of people are still in this like waiting around for stuff mode. Where do you see things kind of going in the next, like just in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I don't do predictions. I gave up on that a long time ago. I'm an apocalyptimist. I have an optimistic outcome to the apocalypse that we're currently going through. I think that what I'm trying to do is live in the present moment with some loose plans. Loose plans to my message really is like, enjoy your day, right? And try to make plans and, you know, see everything for what it is and learn to connect with nature and God and everything else, and everything will kind of take care of itself. That message always gets a kickback from people. So, well, that's all right for you. I'm on benefits and I'm this. Well, you know, that's what you created and you can change it at any moment, is my honest opinion. And also they're there to test my faith anyway in life. And so to answer your question, what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks? I don't even know what date it is. What date is it? 7th of May. Well, I don't know about the next 2 weeks, but I do think disclosure is imminent.
Yeah.
Imminent, because I do think that has to come out before the 4th of July celebrations, which is a big hoo-ha has been made about that. And I did a show 4 years ago with Mel Kay, and I came on with this joke talking about the fact that I'd seen a secret document, and she was like, well, what is it? And I was winding her up and I said, oh, it's this document. It says it's called the really, really, really tight shoes policy. And she went, what do you mean? I said, well, we're going to take off the really, really tight shoes at some point. It's going to be a massive relief, but it wouldn't have been a relief if we hadn't tied up the shoes tightly in the first place. And I think that's about to pop. But I, you know, coming back to what you said earlier about the RV, I still have people writing to me saying, oh, I'm about to get all this money. How do I set up a healing center? And we're going to get billions, and some of it's already been released, and I've sent off my proposal. And I'm like, will you please get out of the fantasy cult world that you're in and just start taking action today instead of dreaming about it? That's really what it's about. Don't dream about it, and don't sit. I watched the Kerry Kay video, who I like a lot. Yesterday, something, and she was saying everybody wants. It was an old video, I think. She said everybody wants change, but they don't want it to change too much. And I'm like, you know, we are the change. We are the change. You know, 100%. So that's why I built a healing center. That's why I put out a publishing company. That's why I'm teaching my kids how to sell ice creams. I mean, it's about making the change in yourself now and doing the work, you know. And as you said, it's an inside job, but also do the work, you know, understand how you've been conned by the straw man system, understand how all police and government are corporations, understand this stuff, because that is actually a spiritual journey, you know. And if you're sat there waiting for the RV, that's a spiritual journey too. You know, there's a huge amount of people in the awake world who are sat there waiting for XRP to go up. And I'm like, and I've met them and I've said, are you mad? And what do you mean? It's going to go up. And I said, what are you going to do with that money? You know, XRP, if it goes to £1 million, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to buy an island in the Caribbean. I'm like, why? What's that going to do? Why can't you be happy now and make the most of what you've got now instead of self-medicating and, you know, all the other shit that you and I have both done, you know, start having a good life today. Make that decision. It is a decision. Yeah. And all of these distractions are there to literally distract you from, you know, making a commitment to building the new world, which I think we're doing.
Yep, 100%. And we are building it. We're building it. We are building it from the inside out, you know, because everything's collapsing around us, like all the systems, all the corruption, you know, it's all there to be seen. And I think the major systems that have to go straight away, which will be politics, government, religion. Then obviously there'll be massive shake-up in the health and wellness and industry. Obviously the National Health Service to be completely like reshuffled. The education system massively, like, et cetera, et cetera. But I think initially politics, and I think that's why things really have started today. And I think that's why I've experienced things today in a big way. From an activation point of view, it's been quite profound, and same for Corin and for a few other people. I think because the voting was out there again today, right? And I think it's there to be seen, and that's why they're showing all the comms around this ship, and actually, it's a part of awakening. And we've noticed actually as well, like during the week, in the mornings between sort of like 8 o'clock and 9:30, the chemtrails are out in force, like, but they're all going towards the sun. Like you can't miss them, right? They're not any other direction. They're all going towards the sun. And we were saying like they'll be gone by 11, 12 o'clock, and they are. But so I'm like, they're literally got to be to wake people up on the school runs and going to work.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's got to be.
And I posted 4 pictures of chemtrails doing cross X's in the sky.
I saw,
yeah, just in the last week. And it's like, and I first got one of those. Where was I? I think I was in Portugal 2 years ago on a beach, and it was just right there above our heads. And then I'm seeing them again now. And this universe is magical. It is, you know, people watching this go, no, so what? So what? I'm like, well, yeah, they're signs.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome, man. And it's I just feel like for my own kind of manifestations on a daily basis are just like in my face, you know, like I can't, not that I want to stop it. It's just like there. So I'm like, it's because we are in that I am presence. And that's something I've been really hammering home recently, is like being in that I am presence. Like I am the prime creator. I am sovereign. Like, and saying these things out loud to yourself. And I've been really hammering it home within our community for people to do it. And the effect it's having for them is phenomenal. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to feel. And it's really made like me and Corin, especially, understand that this place here, like I'm sat in right now, is we call it the fort for the reason, you know, and it's what we've created, you know, out of nothing. And we're about to have a horse delivered, you know. And what's mad is that
how's it going to fit through the letterbox?
Yeah. Well, it won't get past the bailiff letters, mate. And so obviously we got a horse coming. But what's mad is that, like, previously, I never used to like cats. I know I'm the same. I never used to like them.
No, I mean,
I always hated pugs. and like I was always like fearful around horses. Like, and I know it's a bit of a guy thing. Like a lot of guys don't like being around horses. I wasn't like shit scared of them. I just didn't like being around them.
That's because of the size of their schlongs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a male masculine like ego thing. But like in a few short weeks, I'm gonna like be waking up in the morning with like all three in my house.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like and on the land, and we know, absolutely know that what we've created here is why so many people like coming here. They're getting these beautiful activations when they come here, whether they're sitting with medicine with us or just our gatherings that we have. And we know it's just going to grow, and we've started that. The growth's rapidly increased over the last few weeks. And especially since I come back from Portugal, it's a deep knowing that like we're going to be here for a long time. And for me personally, having moved around so much in my life, similar to yourself, I've never really called anywhere home. But home is where the heart is, right? And like my heart is absolutely here in Lincoln. It's like I've been here all my life, you know, and long may that continue, you know, until the universe decides like our work here is done and we've got to go off somewhere else. But you know, until then, it's all about, you know, like I've said for so long, it's about building the butterfly garden and letting the butterflies come to you, you know, instead of chasing the butterflies. And that's exactly what we're doing. And it just shows people like what you can create, because we are the creators.
Chase nothing, moan about nothing, smile at everybody, enjoy your day. It's that simple. Talking of which, I'm gonna have to shoot. I've got
yeah, that's absolutely cool, mate. 1 hour and 11 minutes.
The whole family's just been to Live 5D and had a private session on all the red light and the salt, I think. So I'm just gonna go and chat to them. But it's been great chatting to you, mate, and keep up the good work. And we you know, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, I am as well. I know the people in the chat are. I know the people that are watching and listening everywhere are. And that will watch this and listen back. They're in actually a really good place, despite what might seem like chaos on the outside world. Is just everything's just decomposing to make way for nothing but a beautiful golden era that we're all manifesting collectively together.
Absolutely. And if you're not manifesting, stop it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies and gents, for taking the time. Thanks, guys, for taking the time to join us live. It's always a pleasure. And obviously, Mark, yourself, mate, you know, it's always a great chat. And I know, you know, we get so many people that welcome our chats as well, because we're just semi-level-headed to a point. Two dudes just chewing the fat and just being ourselves.
Yeah, so it's good. I don't do that very often, and it'll be good to do it again a bit longer next time. But
I've got we're all good, man.
Yeah,
all good, bro.
Anyway, good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I'll be back next Thursday, on another episode of Transmissions with AJ. So please join us. But please do us a favor and share this episode with at least one of your friends, if not all of them, because you know this is how we help activate a lot of things in people. It's just subtle little words, subtle little synchronicities that triggers little things in everybody, and this is how we build our army and take our planet back. But for me and Mark, much love, and I'll see you again soon.
See ya.